Hello, everyone again, and thank you so much for your patience. What we had is just a little technical glitch. I guess it just shows how sometimes these things just happen, and it is all about how to deal with that.
Patience.
So, but here where we are, I just double checked we are live, Andy. Right? We're definitely live.
Hearing double. I've heard of seeing double. I've never heard of hearing double before.
Exactly, yes. I just wanted to make sure we're definitely live because, with the technical issues, you never know. And as I said earlier, before we start our session, I was quite aware that there could be potential issue because yesterday I had an issue. So I just wanted to double check. So everybody who's watching us again, thank you so much for joining and thank you for your patience. We just had to deal with this little technology issue. But thank you so much, Andy, for your patience as well. And thank you for coming back with your amazing background. I love that.
I can now show off the new book.
You definitely can. Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. So, Andy, where people actually can buy that?
Amazon. This week it's on a special launch offer on Amazon. After that, it will be available on any online bookseller. It's only available digitally at the moment, but for the opening week, it's available for £1, $1, €1 equivalent on any Amazon site. So not a bad investment.
I mean, it's remarkable investment, cheaper than a coffee.
Cheaper than a coffee, and it will keep you awake for longer.
That's for sure. That's definitely for sure. All right. So in this book, I believe, so you have your tips and tricks about leadership, right? And about the business relationships, right?
Yeah, so it's the two combined. I'm not a leadership expert, but it's looking at how what I was talking about before we lost the link, how that applies to leaders in their role. So looking at how those professional relationships underpin your ability to do your job effectively. You look at most of the challenges that leaders face, professional relationships underpin the solution. They're more easily solved if you have the right connections, if you know the right people and those people want to help and support you. So it looks at that. It also looks at that from a career perspective. So it's good for aspiring leaders and people who want to move up the ranks. So there's a focus on that. And then there's a focus on delegating that relationship role. I encourage, I see it too often in leaders that they are the one with the relationships. You do the job, don't leave the relationships to me. I don't think that's a great way of leading people, and I don't think that's a great way of getting a job done effectively. I believe that companies, organizations that truly encourage and nurture relationship focus among their teams lead to happier employees, more engaged and connected employees, and much more effective work done.
I love that. But Andy, can we dive deeper into how exactly people can build relationships? Because I've been to too many events and people say, oh, here's my business card. Let's catch up for a coffee. Or they say, oh, it'll be good to talk. And then what happens? They just don't. And also people are very scared of making that contact. So what do you think is really important for people to remember how to build that valuable relationships, professional relationships?
Well, number one is just remember why you're doing it. I think it's criminal, the amount of follow-up that gets ignored. And you're not just wasting your time, you're wasting the other person's time when you have a conversation with them and you've got no intention of following up with them. You're not going to follow up with everyone you meet. Okay, that's fair enough. But where there is a connection, then follow up. There was a reason there was a connection. And if you're frightened of rejection or whatever it might be, that's their problem, not yours. If there's any reality to that fear, which there probably isn't, if people don't follow up with you, then that tells you enough about them. You don't need to worry about that. Don't take it personally. What I do when I meet people, if people turn around to me, I've just met them at a conference, an event through someone else, the first thing they say is, let's meet for a drink. Well, hold on for a second. I'm busy. Other people are busy. They've got to look at how they spend their time, and it's a lovely world where you can meet every new person for a drink straight away. But get to know them first. Show the value of investing their time in getting to meet you. Going back to the similarities between professional and personal relationship, and it's a bit of a tired metaphor, so apologies if you have heard it a few times before, but it's similar to dating scene. It's like we have a brief conversation somewhere and I say, right, let's go for dinner.
Yeah.
Let's
I know
have
what you
a
mean.
conversation first. Let's get to know each other first, and then it feels natural to take it to the next stage. And the tip that I recommend, we're back on professional relationships here, but the tip I recommend is 24/7/30.
Oh,
Follow up within 24 hours.
right.
And people go, oh no, I can't do that. I'll look desperate. It's not dating. It's about looking reliable and interested in the other person while they still remember your conversation.
Yeah.
So, and it's not, Olga, I'm so glad we met yesterday. Look, I just wanted to share with you our last 10 annual reports and these 16 brochures. And here's a copy of my book. And we'll talk again tomorrow to see how you got on with it all. It's not that. It's, hey, Olga, it was lovely to meet you. You mentioned you were interested in this. Maybe we can pick up, on this when you've got some time. And let's chat about it further. Or you mentioned you were interested in this article by someone else
Yeah.
might be of interest to you. 2 or 3 lines. Then again, within a week. So that's the 7. That's the 24. Then the 7 is within a week. Now, here's what I do. What you're creating is touch points. And the
Right.
more separate touch points you have, the more people will remember you, and you'll move through those 7 stages of professional relationship. We're looking to put, if you remember, stage 1 was recognize, stage 2 was know, stage 3 is like, then trust. The first step is to put a wall behind recognize.
Yeah.
So they don't go back out and they don't even remember you again. That's the 24/7/30. Then we're taking them through the journey. And different touch points will do that. Now, here's a mistake many will make. They'll say, Olga, yeah, it's nice to meet you. Hold on, let me just add you to my LinkedIn network.
Yes,
While
exactly.
I'm talking to you, that's 2 different touch points, but we're doing it at the same time, which leaves us with 1 touch point.
Yeah.
So what I do is I hold back my LinkedIn connection request for a week, and then I
Oh,
send it personalized, second touch point. And then after 30 days, another follow-up. Now, here is ideally where you've got to the point where it makes sense to meet for lunch or coffee, assuming a day when you can do that, or for a virtual lunch or coffee at the moment. Or it might be touching base, or it might be sending an article, I saw this and thought of you, or really powerful, I've been talking to this person, I thought of you, would you like me to introduce them? So
mm,
offering a connection, not making the connection, wait for them to say yes please,
yeah.
but offering the connection. 24/7/30. Then you've built a wall around your circle of your 7 stages of professional relationship, a wall around that part of your network.
I love that. This is so profound. But you know what I'm thinking? I probably can hear the screams of people saying, oh, within 24 hours, but I'm so busy. But I have to go back to kids and wives and husbands and dogs and cats. And then I have so many things to do in clients and emails. And I'm just like up to my neck with everything. When do I do it? Do you have a special, I don't know, way, special tool, something specific? How do you do it? How do you catch up with people within 24 hours? And then how do you make sure it is within 7 days? Do you write it down like in your diary? Do you put a reminder? How do you do it?
So the first thing is, a lot of people talk about business cards dying. I
Mm,
think business cards are brilliant just to remind you to follow up.
right.
So I get the business cards out the next, when I get in from somewhere, I take my business. I have 2 business card holders, one for my cards, one for other people's, and
Right.
then I'll take them out and I'll put them on my desk. That's part of my job tomorrow. And if I'm in a run of training and mentoring, client work, other things happening, it might not be 24 hours, but that's the ideal. Every day you leave it, they're busy as well. Every
Yes.
day you leave it, the less of a memory you are.
Yeah.
And I'll come back to the time thing in a second. Let me just answer the second part of your question first.
Yeah.
Then what I do, so let's say my standard follow-up will be to send them an email.
Right.
Great to meet you yesterday, Olga. Here's what I'll do. In the address bar 2, I'll put to them. In BCC, I write 1 week at followupthen.com. 1 week at followupthen.com. In a week, that email comes back into my inbox. Now that needs to go in the BCC field, otherwise they will get it as well.
Yeah.
That email comes back into my inbox. I look at it and go, yes, I need to follow that up. I'll send the LinkedIn connection request or something else appropriate. I then forward it to 3 weeks, because that takes me to my 30 days at followupthen.com. In 3 weeks, it comes back into my inbox. I know I've got to take my next step. Don't have to worry about, putting all their details into your CRM until the relationship shows more signs of promise. You don't have, it's not a huge task. It's just on the same email, send that. The only proviso I would have, I don't know what happens with that data. Do not do it if you're including sensitive data in the emails.
Yeah.
But it's worked for me for years. It's brilliant. It's one of the least known tools out there, and it's one of the best because it's so simple to use. Followupthen.com is the website. It's absolutely brilliant. Going back to the time management.
Yeah.
It's very simple. This is the biggest pressure on all of my clients, the biggest challenge to doing the work that I ask them to do. And it's very simple. Time is an investment.
Right.
And with any investment in your business, you want a return. If I said to you, would you invest £1,000 in something that may or may not work, you might think twice, 2-3 times about it. Yeah. If I say invest £1,000, but the likelihood you're going to see a 5-figure return, it will seem cheap. Everything is comparative, and time is no different. If you are strategic in the way you approach your professional relationships, that means you know what you're trying to achieve. If I said to you, by having a strong professional relationship strategy and building, let's go to our earlier conversation where I talked about the people that you need to meet to achieve your objective. So let's say your objective is to get to the next level in your job. You want to become a director of your company. And if I said to you, you can do that, but you lack strong relationships in this part of your organization. And if those guys are not on side, it's going to be much harder for you to get that promotion. So you need to get them on side. Do you think you would find the time to build the relationship?
It'll be crucially important to you, of course. You will do your best and to do it.
Yeah. So it's focusing on why you're doing it. It's focusing on the results. And I'm today, I don't have time to do all the work I've been doing on the book launch. Yeah. I've been sending so many emails to people and social media posts and so on. I don't have time. I've got so much else going on. I don't have time to do the podcast interview that I'm conducting at 5 o'clock. I don't have time to do the launch session with my client at 3 o'clock. But you know what? I'm doing them all because I know why I'm doing them and I know what the objective is and how they get me closer to it. So busy people find time when it's important enough.
That's very true. It's how do you set up your priorities? And when things are really important to you, then you just do it. And yes, everybody's experiencing delays. Everybody's experiencing being too busy sometimes. And it could be busy full or busy, right? But when you have your diary booked up by an hour and with valid appointments, with valid things, then of course, you are busy. But I love the way how you operate. And even Diana here, she says, it's really helpful. She says, 24/7/30. I will remember this. Right. Would be really interesting if you could repeat the website name. Is it the followupnet.com?
Followupthen.com.
Followupthen.com. Right. Okay. I'll make sure I will definitely write it down. That's wonderful. Okay. So now we go to the point where we have a little bit of a system. We followed up with people within 24 hours and we said it was a pleasure to meet you. And then it could be an email, LinkedIn invite, something else, whatever is relevant. Because if you're already connected on LinkedIn, you're not going to really send another LinkedIn invitation, right? So whatever is relevant, but within 7 days and then 30 days. Would you say then we continue with that? And how often do we have to continue with that?
If you've managed 3 two-way engagements in that time, they're in your network and the connection is there, it should then flow naturally. I wouldn't at that stage then prescribe how frequently you should be in touch because everyone is different. People's communication styles are different. The level of rapport will be different. The appropriateness of staying in touch will be different. Some of my clients would feel pressured if I connected with them every 3 months even. Others appreciate that I'm thinking of them. So you have to look at different people. My golden rule of follow-up is that 90% of it should be about the other person, not about you.
Yes.
What I despise is when I see a mass circular message on that I've received because I'm a LinkedIn connection, and they all say the same thing. They say, we might not have connected for a while, so I thought I'd update you with what I've been doing for the last year.
Oh, no, 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 no.
I didn't ask. I didn't ask. You're better off sending 5 personalized messages saying, how are you? I've been thinking about you, than 1,000 on that circular.
Yeah.
There are times when it's okay to make it about you. I'll hands up. That's what I'm doing at the moment because I've got a book coming out. I don't know if I mentioned that,
Yeah.
so I've got to promote it. I've got to tell
Yeah.
people and ask for their help. But I hope and I believe that I earn the right to do that by the way that I conduct myself the rest of the time. My Instagram feed is a classic example of this. Now, Instagram, I tend to use predominantly just for the joy of it rather than as a business tool. But there's a business element there because it's a where people who engage with me on a personal level can find out what I'm doing in a non-pressurized way. If you look at my feed over the last 6 months, year or whatever, you will find very few updates about my business, a handful. If there was pictures of me speaking before the lockdown, if there's, I might have posted a webinar or two or a remote session or two that I've done since. And then in the last week or so, it's upped because the book's come out. And then once that settles down, it'll be back to lots of pictures of plants and hopefully one day again, gigs and sports. But even among all of the images in the last few days of the book, you'll see images of local animals and local walks that I've been on and so forth. So I still try and mix it up, but generally 90% should be about you, about the other person, not about you.
Yes.
That's the golden rule. There are things you can do to stay in touch. I saw this and thought of you. See an article, send it across, particularly if it's about their personal interest rather than professional job title. That is so impactful. It shows you've shown a genuine interest in them and you've been listening in conversation. I'm going to be in the area. Why don't we catch up? So when I was due to be in Leeds, what did I do, Olga? I said, look, I'm going to be in Leeds.
Yeah.
Let's make sure we catch up. Let's do a walk. So using that time effectively. Sadly, that didn't happen because we hit lockdown that weekend.
Yeah.
So it will. But it's little things like that. What I find, the deeper you go into that journey of your professional relationships, the 7 stages of professional relationships, the less frequent contact is needed. I've had an email today from one of my old 6th form friends.
No way.
And we reconnected on Facebook a few years ago, and we've been Facebook friends for a few years, but we haven't seen each other since 6th form, and we haven't really engaged that much on Facebook. And he subscribes to my newsletter, which I didn't realize, and he got my update about the book this morning.
Wow.
And he emailed, he said, oh, I've just bought it. I love seeing what you're up to and following your updates and posts and so forth. He said, isn't it funny, this modern world where we can still feel connected even though we haven't seen each other for 30 years?
Yes.
And he might have been knocking a few numbers off of that. And that's what it's like. I can pick up the phone to people I haven't seen for 6 years, 10 years, even professionally, and just reconnect. I talked to one of my former franchisees who I've stayed a lot in touch with. She's a speaker now as well. But when I ran networking groups, she was one of our local area franchisees. And she contacted me late last week and said that one of our local groups had arranged a Zoom catch up. It must be 10 years, 12 years on from when they last met.
Right.
And the nice thing is she said they were talking about me and my father who founded the business and our partner. And she mentioned a couple of names I remembered, and I said, that was a lovely guy, sending my best. If that particular person who I haven't seen or spoken to for probably 15 years reached out to me, straight away I'd be, yep, how are you? How can I help you? And you've got relationships like that in your life, in your professional life, where you haven't spoken to them for 10 years or longer, but you could pick up like it was yesterday. Social media helps us with that.
Yeah.
It helps us stay insight in mind, which is what's happened with my old college friend. But you know, there are names in your past that the bond was so strong that years and years won't make a difference, and you can pick it up again.
That's true. And especially nowadays when we actually have video calls, it's so powerful. Yes, we cannot travel and meet for coffee, but we can do a video call. And I like the question which we hear from Vinit Ambat. He says, he asks actually, can professional relationships be maintained with more of video conferences, which is likely to become the new normal? What's your take on that?
Yeah, I do write about this in the books. I talk about how what we've learned from the lockdown and how that might move forward.
Wow.
I think it will become more commonplace than before, and I think we will see organizations and individuals opting to use video calls where previously they may have traveled, and they will use it as a time-saving device as well because they won't need to leave the office.
Wow.
However, you can, and we talked about this before the link got broken, so you may not have seen this in the original part of the conversation. We are getting Zoom fatigue, and I think that that will play its part, although once we're out of lockdown, the number of video calls will go down to a degree, so that will impact on Zoom fatigue.
Yeah.
But also you don't engage in the same way as humans through video as you do face to face. I talked about it earlier, where at the moment I'm looking at the camera, I'm not looking at Olga. So that means that I'm not making that, even though it feels like I'm making eye contact, I'm not. But to make eye contact, I've got to dip my head, and it might look like I'm looking away and looking down and disconnecting. I'm actually looking at Olga now, but it might feel to you like I'm disconnected. So how do we overcome that as an example? And the video company that, or the hardware company that sorts that out will do very well. But even without, you know, you can't see what I'm doing with my hands at the moment. You know, I might be looking at my phone. I'm not, by the way. It's over here. You
Well,
can't you can't see when my, you know, if I'm down here, you can't see if my arms are crossed. You can't see my body language generally. And even those of us, and I include myself, who are not experts on body language, we still learn a lot from someone else's body language because it's ingrained in us. So yes, it will become more commonplace. Yes, it can be used as a tool to build stronger relationships. You can send a video message on LinkedIn now. Most people don't know that. I keep forgetting about it. But when you connect with someone, send them a video. But make it personal. You know, this is the danger that people have. This is my LinkedIn greetings video, and they totally destroy any chances of a relationship. But maybe at some point in an early conversation with someone, send a video and say, hi, you know, I wanted to meet you personally. We have to balance that off against the intrusive nature of video and voice. For one, I've got friends who leave a lot of voice notes. I'm not a fan, because if someone sends me a text message, an SMS or an email while I'm listening to music, watching television, doing something else, obviously not having this conversation, I wouldn't dream of it, but I can multitask. When they send me a voice message, I can't. Now, you can argue, well, that means you're focusing wholly on that person, and that's a good thing. But
Yeah.
it depends on the nature of the interaction.
Very true, very true. Well, and I must say, it also depends whether you do have these almost like next level of relationships or not. Because if it is strictly professional and you just literally met, I probably would just send, let's say, an email or LinkedIn message or a text message, something like that, alongside those 3 times. But when it is, I think already you are connected, then probably it is easier to send a voice message. And I mean, I don't have any problem to leave any voice message to anybody, but I think it's not that well received. It's almost like I'm in a rush. And I had lots of messages on LinkedIn, even when I would message somebody and somebody would actually send me a voice message. And I must say, from one point of view, I'm thinking, wow, that's great. Thank you so much for making that effort. And thank you so much, for making sure you did respond to me. You got back to me in touch, but you made it voice message. But also, Andy, don't you think it's a great tool how you can learn more about the person when you haven't been in touch with them verbally, when you haven't met them, but you just connect with them through whatever, email or social media? Don't you think it actually can be used in order to feel the person, to
Yeah,
connect? person's
And
truth.
that was my point. And I think that there's a balance to be struck. And it goes back to a lot of what I've said today, is that different people like different things. I don't personally like voice and video messages because they feel intrusive. They break my stride. But other people really appreciate them and really enjoy them. If you work in a really busy office and you don't want everyone knowing your business, you probably don't want an audio video message. But on the same side, this has got me thinking. I had a LinkedIn connection request this morning from someone at one of the big accountancy consultancy firms, one of the big four. So I and in a senior role, so I go and have a look at her LinkedIn profile, and I can see that she, until recently, she worked for one of my clients, another well-known accountancy consultancy firm. So my message to her on the LinkedIn connection was, did our paths cross when we were there? And I see a lot of the people I know at that firm. I'm assuming that's why you wanted to connect. And her reply was, yes, I saw you speak. And she said some very very nice, positive things. And she said, maybe we can use you here at some point, but I really sort of think it'd be good to connect, which is really positive. Now, perhaps my response should have been a video message as a chance to really build that connection, that humanity. Now, that's not something I naturally do. I sent her a text message, a LinkedIn written message.
Yeah.
But you could argue that to respond with a video saying thank you so much, I really appreciate the connection and what you've said, and look, let's pick up a conversation at some time, that would be fantastic. Now we knew this, I knew this would happen. I think I have a delivery that's just arrived, and I knew it would happen during one of these. Can you bear with me a second?
Of course, absolutely. Yes, it's absolutely fine. Yeah. Well, that's the life during the lockdown. What can I say? We'll all have lives to continue. And I had sometimes dogs in the videos or children coming up. So delivery is just one of those. But I must say that video calling is really, really important nowadays. And it definitely takes us to the next level. We can understand each other better because you see the language of your facial expressions via video. And also, Andy, I must say that some time ago, I think a few good months ago, I received via email, this typical sales email, which says, here's the personalized video message for you. And I thought, oh, that's really special. It's personalized video. Click the link. And I clicked the link, and actually the message started with, hi there, and whatever else was after that. And I felt a bit of like, oh, it did say personalized.
People get, I think, carried away with technology, and they
Yeah.
forget the humanity.
Yeah.
And technology is there as a tool to support us as we engage with people. It's not there to replace that engagement, and it's not there to remove the personal touch, but that's what it can do. And the irony is that some of the tools that are developed to create the more personal touch, such as the ones we're talking about, make people lazy and
Yeah.
forget it.
Yeah, because you're right there. We need to use technology for our benefit, but sometimes we need to remember that actually it can sometimes let us down, just like today early on. But never
Oh,
mind
we've
that.
had
Never
everything
mind
in
that.
this call, haven't we?
Exactly. Absolutely. And again, it's about how persistent are you and how do you manage your emotions and how do you manage the troubles? And because the same with relationships, right? When you build those relationships and then one of people cannot make that phone call, one of you two cannot answer on time for one reason or another. And I've been myself in situations when, for example, recently my stepdad passed away. And I'll be honest, I got behind a little bit with getting in touch with people because I was just still emotional, not in the right place. And especially over the weekend, it was definitely not a good time for me to communicate with people. And still, it is about, well, yeah, but they don't know about that. And then you feel a bit guilty when you respond to them saying, well, really sorry, but I had a bit of, rocket time. And you think, well, but it's nothing to do with them. Should you mention that? Should you not? How do you deal with when things did not go right for one reason or another? How do you rebuild that professional relationships?
Pick up the phone. I mean, not necessarily in the example you're using, because I don't think it had reached that level. I think it's fine to be honest and acknowledge, as we say, the elephant in the room,
Yeah.
and people should accept, where you're at. And I think the trouble with email communications is it introduced an expectation of immediate response, which we never had before. You know,
Yes.
my first job, we had to reply within 28 days. Can you imagine waiting 28 days for a reply to something now? But
Via
that,
email.
sorry? No, no,
Via
no, we didn't have
email.
email then. We didn't have email then. This was letters with stamps and things. I'm old. It wasn't carrier pigeons. I'm not that old. Um, but and we did type them. It wasn't with a quill. But no, but it was 28 days we used to post. That was the expectation for the reply. And now it's more like 28 minutes. But sometimes you have to separate yourself from that. And I think ultimately you're not going to find that rapport, find that connection with everyone. And you want to find that connection with the people who get the authentic you. Now, there are limits to that.
Yeah.
But I think part of that is it's okay not to respond for a while if if there's good reasons. And there's emails in my inbox that have been in there for more than 28 days. I'll be honest, not a lot. I mean, I know people who've got horrific inboxes going to tens of thousands. I try and keep mine in low two-digit figures, but there are those that have been there for a while. I think that that's fine because I've got a connection with those people where they get that, they know me, and they'll understand that I will get to that when the time is right. Uh, and I think it's important to have that in relationships. The other thing that's important, I don't know if you know Paul McGee, who wrote Sumo.
Yes.
Yes. Now, one of my favorite concepts in Sumo, which I talk about in my next book, which is with the publisher at the moment, is called hippo time. And hippo time is allowing yourself to wallow, allowing yourself just to feel bad. So when your stepdad died, you needed you time, hippo time. You didn't need to be the effervescent Olga that the world sees. And that was absolutely fine. And people should respect that. And if they don't respect that, if they're too demanding of you, then they're not the people you want the strong relationship with, because they don't get the authentic you. They get the stage you. And it's only when you can connect on that real level, that authentic level, that you see changes. The next book will be about vulnerability, asking for help, being able to say I don't know, being able to say I'm struggling. And I chaired a webinar on this for the Professional Speaking Association membership last week, and it's such an important part. Our community is full of people who lead others in positivity in many cases, and it's important for us to be able to turn around and say sometimes, hey, that's not who I am right now. And there are times when we have to go on stage or on camera, as it is now, when things aren't good in our lives and we turn it on. But equally, I've seen audiences time and again really, really resonate when you're authentic, when you're genuine. And it elevates the whole connection between you and your audience hugely. Now, if that happens when you're talking to a room full of hundreds of people, then how powerful can it be when you're talking one-to-one?
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. And it's all about the practice. It's about getting there because nobody was born being so effective communicator and being so effective relationship builder. But the more you practice, the better you become.
It's true. I never thought about that. I might argue with it. I would say that we're born brilliant communicators and brilliant relationship builders because our mums know when we're hungry and we don't have language to tell them. Our mums know when our nappies need changing and
Oh,
we don't
yes.
have language to tell them. And we know the person who's going to do all that for us as well. So you see little kids and they will always gravitate to the caregiver. So maybe we are born with it and maybe we lose it along the way.
That's interesting comment, actually. Yes, because naturally we can communicate what our needs and wants are. But then when it comes to professional world, like for example, I never heard of this 24 7 and 30 rule. And that's why people are so impressed by that as well, because they also haven't heard of that. So I guess naturally we are able to build these natural relationships,
Yeah.
especially when we're close to people, especially when they are just nearby us and we don't have to send emails and catch up over the phone. But maybe it's more business relationships, maybe there's more professional relationships which we need to practice how to build and do that effort, which again, it might sound like too much work, but it's not about too much work. It's about what is the end goal for you. And if it is really important for you, then you will practice, then you will do it. And maybe you will not feel that comfortable approaching somebody for the first time, maybe not even second time, but then the more you do it, the more comfortable you become.
Yes, I think that there are large elements of it that are natural.
Mm.
Most of the leaders I talk to do most of this naturally. My job with them is to help them find that 5%, 10% that,
Right.
that just helps them do it in a more conscious way and get better results. And actually, most of the people I talk to do a lot of the stuff naturally. A lot of the stuff I teach, we know, but we're not necessarily applying it when and where we need to. So I think it is inherent within us, but we don't. You know, you think about what is taught in corporations and in large organizations. You think about the topics that are there. Topics of professional relationships and networking communications tend to be treated way down the ladder in terms of priority, and yet, as I said earlier, they underpin everything else that we need to achieve. They're not given the priority that they're needed, and it's the same with time management. Our relationships aren't given the priority that they merit because everything else that we're trying to achieve is more important, despite the fact that with the right professional relationships we could do it more quickly and more effectively.
Yeah,
So the reason that they are relegated to that level is we believe we know how to do this stuff naturally anyway, and we do.
love
The
that.
reason they shouldn't be relegated is because of the impact they can have if you do them better and more consciously.
Love that. Love that. More consciously rather just relying on subconscious. I
Mm.
want to and I don't want to, but actually more conscious and actually more driven by you deciding what is the end result. I love that. Love that. Well, Andy, this is so profound. I mean, is this all in your book? I mean, literally everything what we discussed today, is this all in your book? How did you manage to put that much into one book?
I don't know if it's all in my book because a lot of what I've said has been prompted by your questions. A
Oh,
lot of it is, and a lot of it that we haven't talked about is in the book as well. Uh,
oh, so what else?
and it's a short book. I mean, I talk about how you protect your reputation.
Ooh,
So you know that side of professional relationships as well. Uh, as I mentioned earlier, I talk a lot about developing a relationship culture and delegating the responsibility for relationships, which we haven't really we've touched on in this presentation rather than anything else. There's a chapter on social media and using social media effectively for relationships, which again we've touched on,
I
but
love
not really in the way that I've talked about it in the book. So there's quite a lot we didn't, but it's a very practical book. You know, it's only 150 pages. It was originally designed as a short ebook. You know, that was literally it was going to be 16 pages. Here are
yeah.
my top tips as a lead generator, effectively, for the work I want to do. But then when I put the chapter listing down, I worked out my 16 areas or 12 areas, I think they were. I showed it with my mastermind group, one of whom is a senior leader in executive development, and his response immediately told me, no, this is more. But whereas with other books, I've interviewed a lot of people or sort of dug into a lot of research. There is research in there. This was just right. Okay, here's my knowledge. Here's where I am at the moment. Here are my ideas. Let's get them on paper. So taking my ideas, it's a shorter book.
Wow, I love that. Well, I'm so happy actually to announce that you will be back talking more about your book in details and what exactly is that. But could you please touch base really, really quickly on particular reputation? Because what I noticed is that nowadays it's so easy to build your reputation because it's about, what you do and showing positive stuff rather than negative stuff and the way how you talk and watching your vocabulary on social media and with people as well. But could you please talk more about how not to ruin reputation? Because people are not aware of that. People don't really pay attention to that. And it is taking seconds to ruin reputation. So, how actually people in business can be more mindful of their reputation? That's the question.
I think that if I was forced to give one tip, it would be awareness.
Right.
Have complete awareness about of how you're perceived by other people. I shared a story. I share a story in the book of when I was running the networking groups 15 years ago or so. I was in Birmingham, and I'm a big football fan. And I used to time visiting our regional groups, our national groups, around where my team were playing. And so we were playing Birmingham City away on the Saturday. I went to our Birmingham group or one of our Birmingham groups on the Friday. They all knew it. We all used to have a laugh and a joke. And before the match, I went for a drink with a couple of the members who I got on really well with, who supported Birmingham City. And then I went into the away end. And at one point, the away end was singing a song that was very popular at football grounds around the country at the time. It was a take on a famous TV theme tune. And in typical football banter style, it was rather derogatory about the team, the people who supported the team we were playing. And our whole end was singing it. Everyone was standing up. It was a very clap along, catchy tune. And everyone was singing it. And as this was happening, I looked around and I realized, I looked at the three other stands and I thought, I know someone over there who supports Birmingham. I know someone up in that stand who supports Birmingham. I know someone in that stand who supports Birmingham. They all know I'm here. If they glanced over and they recognized me and they could see me clapping along and singing these lyrics and their clients, what do they think of me?
Wow.
And that was a penny drop moment for me, because it was harmless. It is harmless, you know. Football has a bad reputation. It's where a lot of people go to vent. You know, when I was younger, that's where I lost the anger, and I would vent the stress. But there's a line for me now, and the line is, how would I feel if anyone I knew professionally saw me now? And I try to carry that into social media interactions, into the way I am in my personal life as well as my professional life. I think that's my number one tip, is awareness of how you could be perceived if you were seen by a professional connection doing what you're doing now.
Love that. Love
And
that. And
for
I
most
hope
of us, that should be, you know, pretty straightforward and easy.
exactly. Exactly. And I hope everybody will take this tip from this from this video today, from this show, because being aware how you are perceived, not by your friends, but professional people out of your audience, is really important. And I love that tip. Really good, really good. It's something that I'm always mindful about, always mindful about. And that's why when I go out and about, like everybody's having nights out, I'm always mindful of people not taking pictures of me, because I'm thinking, well, I don't want to appear on some random parties and things like that. So it's something what we should be definitely mindful about. And if somebody wants to post something about you, or you appearing somewhere where you can see people are filming, be aware you are seen. And it takes only one person to recognize you and talk about that. That's it. But
Well, can I just pick up on one quick thing on that?
yeah,
And that is, don't be vanilla. Don't be frightened and be vanilla. I go to fancy dress parties. It's not really my scene, but I have a large group of friends that do it. And occasionally I'll go in fancy dress and makeup and so on. If those photos go out publicly, embrace it, because it's part of who I am. Same with going to sports. I go to a lot of concerts, a lot of gigs, a lot of punk gigs. I share it. It's part of who I am. If you're going to judge me adversely on that, then we shouldn't be connected.
yeah,
So it is about, if a professional contact saw this, can I still be proud? Can I still be me? And
yeah.
so that gives me a lot of leeway to still have a personality.
Yeah, yeah. Love that. Love that. Well, Andy, thank you so much. Everything what you shared today, I could talk to you for hours. Honestly, I could spend probably the next 5 hours just listening to.
And I got a client call at 3 o'clock.
Well, exactly. And also the promise is it's usually last up to an hour. So unfortunately, I have to finish off and wrap it up. But thank you so much, Andy. You shared so much value today. And all your tips which you gave away were so valuable. I mean, there are so many great comments. Wow. And people saying hello again because they rejoined us.
Thanks
Obviously,
for coming back.
yeah, exactly. Thank you so much for coming back and being so patient with us. So it was wonderful to have you today. And I'm so, so excited to have you back within a couple of weeks talking about your books in more detail. So everybody, if you haven't got the book yet, please make sure you do get the book, because we'll be stripping down the book. We'll be talking about details, and especially the journey, how exactly you wrote that. Because nowadays, many people thinking about, I want to write a book, but I'm not sure how to write a book. So we're going to cover lots of details then.
Well, that's great. Well, this is 4 and 5 is on its way, and all of them are very different journeys. So we can break all of those down. Always happy to give advice and my experiences in that field.
Definitely, definitely. Well, I'll be definitely looking forward to have you back. But I really enjoyed today. So thank you so much, Andy. And thank you so much, everybody who is watching us and who will watch us later on today. Please make sure you do have your takeaways, which you will apply straight away after this video. You don't have to do it within next minute, but within 24 hours, reach out to people with whom you didn't speak for a while. Make sure you build your strong professional relationships.